Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Tech Tuesday on the Education Lady podcast. We'll be right back with this week's tech guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to all of our great sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all companies that I used as an AD. They're all great companies. I highly recommend that you check them out. So take 3 minutes, listen to our sponsorship shout outs, then listen to our Tech Tuesday guest, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support of the podcast. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all their events, or to show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. I'm telling you, if you put one of these in your gym lobby, your school entrance, or anywhere on campus, it's going to be a magnet for kids, coaches, parents, alums, sponsors. It's also a great way to share your school's history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast. Their team is going to have you creating world-class content in seconds, and it's so easy, even I can do it. Gipper's used and trusted by over 20,000 high school and college programs, and whether it's a social media post celebrating a victory or an entire newsletter showing your community everything that the athletic department accomplishes, the Gipper team is going to have you creating world-class content. Like I said, it's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com to get started. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Snap Mobile. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed a little bit in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success. Coaches loved it. Parents loved it. I'm telling you, it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. It's snapraise.com. We'd also like to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're earning your master's degree, you're also earning 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters. We'd also like to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown is changing the game for schools and organizations with their suite of solutions for things like digital ticketing, fee-free fundraising, along with athletic websites. Whether you're an athletic director, a coach, or a school administrator, Hometown makes it easy for schools to save time, raise more money, and bring your community together. You can learn more at hometownticketing.com. We also want to take a moment and say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their scoreboards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results. And even if your state association already has a platform for that, Home Campus's athletic clearance and eligibility platform alone is worth the price. Go to homecampus.com to get started. That's it, homecampus.com. We want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our parents loved the streaming, our kids loved the videos, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic Surveys is going to create a custom survey for you and allow you to take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Tech Tuesday on the Educational AD Podcast. Regular listeners will certainly recognize the name Courtney Sakalleris, who's our guest today. If you're new, Courtney, longtime athletic administrator in the Midwest, still very active coaching. And for the last several years, she has been with a company called Honest Game. Again, was following Courtney, learned about the platform and just thought it was tremendous, a great asset for athletic administrators. Courtney, welcome back to the podcast. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Share with our listeners just a little bit about the platform and why, and again, this is me talking and you talking, why it's so helpful to athletic directors.
Thank you, Jake, so much for having me. And thank you for all the listeners and anyone out there from our Illinois space. It's always great to connect with people. And now I'm in lots of places, so I get to meet new ADs and new coaches, which is always exciting. So we exist, and we always say this, we do not exist to start a company. We exist to solve a problem. We know that the college athletic landscape is consistently changing. It has been for the past 20 to 25 years. And now it is consistently changing. But one of the things that we feel super, super strongly about is academic eligibility, how it relates to college recruiting, and how it sets students up for success to be able to take the most opportunities and the best opportunity for them, both academically and athletically. So our dashboard provides a real-time look at academic eligibility requirements for the college pathway. So we will share NCAA Division I, Division II projected status with your verified data from your school information system. We will share where you sit for NAI eligibility, and then we will share detailed information in both the Division III and junior college space and how academic relates to those spaces. However, there's not institutional from the NCAA for Division III requirements or for junior college, just entering as a high school graduate. But again, just detailed information in all 5 college pathways, how your academics are going to set you up for success, or in some cases where you need some intervention and some assistance to be able to get to the space where you want to be.
Yeah, and again, there's so many different levels I want to dive into, and I think we're actually going to end up spreading this over a couple of different Tech Tuesday episodes. But my career was primarily at private schools, independent schools, very successful schools that were sending 100% of their graduating seniors on to college. Not so much for sports, but for college, and certainly tracking grades and maintaining eligibility was part of that. Most of our listeners probably don't have the resources that we had at my school. One of my schools, we had 400 kids. We had 4 college counselors in each grade, and they were well versed in, let's say, baseline eligibility for college, et cetera. The tracking is important, but maybe share a little bit on that idea of monitoring eligibility, not just when they're a junior or senior, but throughout their high school experience. How does Honest Game accomplish all that?
Absolutely. So, we land in a space between, today we're talking to our colleagues as athletic administrators, but we land in a space between athletics and counseling, right? So sometimes in some schools it's housed in counseling. You've got one key counselor who's maybe was a college athlete or is coaching or has this great, understanding of the NCAA and the inner workings, or you've got one of your key coaches who's had a very successful program with a lot of different athletes moving on to college athletics. We exist so that any program, any school, very verse, not as verse, maybe there's a changeover, maybe there's a turnover. We exist to be able to share real-time tracking beginning freshman year, first semester with all of we are moving into all students because it's helpful to know even for activities and for some larger districts, just all students tracking overall, grades and eligibility and how that rolls into district funding, et cetera. But it begins freshman year and each semester, just like the NCAA, like we were looking at semester grades, we can see where a student sits. We can see what improvements we need to make, some sort of understanding about maybe what we're lacking. But we do sort of fall in that space in between, athletics and counseling, right? So again, every school has a different makeup. We love to be in all different types of schools. So large schools, large districts, well-resourced schools, under-resourced schools, schools that are in rural areas, schools in urban areas, any of those places where we can help create a system that helps track student athletes to keep them from the very beginning when they enter that building at freshman year and they're on that freshman team to hopefully their senior year when they're exploring options to continue their athletic career along with their academics.
Yeah, I love the way you phrase that. I think you might even be the bridge between counseling and athletics sometimes because, coaches, of course, ADs, they're just so overwhelmed. Oh, I got to track all this stuff too. That's where Honest Game can really, really be a game changer. Um, you mentioned, the student athletes, and I know the platform. Well, let's do this first, and we're going to do it at the end of the segment. The platform's Honest Game. If one of our listeners wants to reach out and find more, that's one of the reasons we're doing this Tech Tuesday. How do they find out more? How can they connect with Courtney Sakalleris?
Absolutely. So one, we encourage you to go right to our website, which is honestgame.com. There is some opportunity to watch a demo video. There is some opportunity to see, we have a couple different pieces that we do and offer for schools. We offer NCAA audit and portal maintenance for the eligibility center and what classes you have listed and who's managing that. We offer that along with tracking all students or student athletes. And then we obviously have for some of our clients that are smaller schools, or you have a number of kids doing some virtual opportunities. If that's something that you're on here today, if you're a former AD and you're coaching, and we have some one-on-one counseling. It all relates back to academics. But you can find us on our website. You can also email us at info@honestgame.com. And that's to request a demo. That's to ask more questions. That's to tell us a little bit about you. And maybe you've got just one question about one student athlete. We are here to help. We were able to share in an NIAAA webinar two this year to kind of partner with the NCAA and share a little bit more about how to reach high schools for two of the biggest, stop gaps that we see, and that is creating certification accounts in the Eligibility Center and understanding, some of the new rules and landscapes that are happening, particularly NCAA Division I or Division II. So we're sort of excited to be able to educate, from top down, right? The NCAA is concerned with their institutions and all they have going on, and the Eligibility Center is the holding pattern, right, for our high school athletes. And they do a phenomenal job serving our high schools, but they're not in high school every day. So we're able to sort of provide also a little bit of a bridge there to relate to our counselors and athletic administrators and understand what may be creating a blockage for kids creating accounts or updating a course. So all of that information is on our website. And again, we're happy to kind of dive into maybe something particular that's happening at your school that you need assistance with.
Oh, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And again, for listeners, Courtney's longtime athletic administrator in the Midwest. She's still very active coaching on the state and the national level. And she's a member of the NIAAA National Teaching Faculty. So she is very connected with working athletic directors. You mentioned student athletes, and I know you've shared this before, but can you share with our listeners how the Honest Game software also allows student athletes to take charge of their own academic progress as they're understanding the eligibility requirements that apply to them?
So for a school that signed on with us, we obviously are tracking either all students or all student athletes. Every student has a ability to log in to see their eligibility report. So does their parent or guardian. So that is access that they have. The school is providing that to them as a resource. And there is going to be some features in there coming for us in spring of 2025 that help outline framework. We are not a recruiting company. We do not want any part of that, but it outlines the framework of the pieces and the steps that have to be taken. And so the student part is, kids are not always, grades are not fun, right? They're not flashy, they're not exciting, but they are the most understated and missed piece in eligibility, in recruiting. And the more student athletes are aware and can highlight if they're a very high achieving student, number one, highlighting that in their recruiting process. Or if they're a student who's just like, they're at school because they love athletics. So they're going to get their job done, but maybe that's they're going to be a qualifier and that's where they land. They know they can share with coaches in that recruiting process. I am going to be a full qualifier. I am on track to be a full qualifier. I am on track to graduate. And I'm happy to show you my report so that you can come out and see me, right? So that I can go on my visit. All those pieces are so important. When those come out of a young person's mouth in the recruiting landscape now, and they can speak to their academics, immediately, we know this from college coaches, they're leveled up, right? They are able to talk about something that sometimes even our college coaches are like focused on their talent, but we do have to check that box. So when kids can clearly project where they sit, it can be a game changer, not only for that particular student, but for your program. Like, we know college recruiting is cyclical. Like they'll come back to the same places again and again. Sure, I'll watch the Super Bowl and we're seeing there's a lot of kids from certain places on both those teams. And that is not just a coincidence, right? Those are programs that create talented athletes. And at some point, they also had to be verified as full qualifiers to participate in college. So the more we can showcase academics and student athletes talking about their academics very clearly, that's a feather in your cap as an admin, right? You're doing the right stuff. You're taking care of your kids and you're taking care of your coaches and your families.
Oh no, absolutely. And it just reinforces that idea of this nowadays, it's kind of an expectation. Parents are expecting schools and by extension, athletic directors and coaches to know all this stuff, have all this stuff at their fingertips. Well, that's where Honest Game comes in. Uh, I'm glad we're spreading this out over two segments, but a couple more questions for this one. Can you share, and I know you got 1,000, but can you share an example or two about a success story where the tracking and the early intervention that Honest Game provided, made a difference for a student athlete?
Yes, we have plenty. Obviously, we share them a lot with our schools and we share them with superintendents and boards and stakeholders because we all need to hear good news, right? We understand what's happening in our country and sometimes even schools when we win a state championship and whatever, we still feel like, does anyone know how much we're working, what we're doing behind the scenes? So we know we do share with our high school clients. We share a lot of data reporting. We share a lot of client reports, and we're always looking to create success stories from our marketing team to share with your stakeholders in your community. On that, for success stories, I think something that's new is there's a lot of schools that are sort of, it's one thing to be a full qualifier, right? So I meet my 2.3, but then it's another thing to be admissible into the institution. So we are seeing more and more athletes who would be categorized. We're all familiar with a 5-star athlete, right? I'm hitting this mark. I'm a qualifier, but I'm having these opportunities to go to an institution that my athletic ability may push me over the edge to be admissible. So we came across a student athlete who is at an outstanding institution, playing in a national championship in this past month or so, and has this outstanding opportunity to get a degree from this university, and they're a full qualifier. But compliance is asking counselor a few questions about a level of a few of the classes. They're NCAA approved classes, but for this student to be admissible, we need to see if we can maybe change a class to a little bit more of a higher level or, look at that schedule a little more intently. So I view that as a success because we set the student athlete up, right? Full qualifier, we're entering senior year. And now there's another question. The counselor's like, I think these are all approved classes. Yes, they are. For this institution, they're asking for a little bit more. So we were able to sort of look at that schedule, feel comfortable with sharing that information with the compliance at that particular university. And then the counselor's like, okay, now I feel like this is for sure. The student is going to be signing. The student is going to be attending the school and obviously have an outstanding opportunity not only to compete at a very high level, but also get a degree, that is going to last and take them into another place that they may not have been able to get to. So that is my one success about admissibility, right? The second would be there is a trend, not just particularly in the sport of football, but a few other sports. Kids are being asked to graduate early. Kids are being asked, essentially in the sport of football, but in some other sports as well. And that may be asked of them as they enter their summer before senior year. Counselor's like, I was not prepared for that. Family really wants that. There's potentially some NIL money involved with the graduating early. So we are able to, with, more than a Rolodex of list, really adjust a schedule. and make sure that we are going to meet our 16, meet our full qualifying status, and be able to graduate, in that December or January date that is listed on their grant aid. And those are trends. So those are things we're constantly keeping up on and wanting to educate our partners on because they're changing. That's always changing. 10 years ago, kids were not graduating early to go to college and start their college career in January. That wasn't something that was happening, right? That is much more commonplace now.
Wow. Great setup for what's going to be my final question on this segment. There's so many pieces to the college placement equation. Eligibility, graduation, certification. You just mentioned NIL and more. Um, for a brand new AD who is completely overwhelmed with the new information, for a veteran AD who's starting to feel overwhelmed with the changing landscape, what kind of advice? What's your top piece of advice besides, of course, contacting you at Honest Game? What's your top piece of advice for ADs to manage all of these different parts of the equation?
I think it's a little bit of just like micro learning. Like you couldn't know. Like I get to you and I got to live in this space and over my 17 years see it change and then continue and get to focus on it every day. And I have the advantage of seeing different places and across our country, right? Different trends. I think that as a new AD, the biggest thing the first thing I would do and the only thing for today would be one, make sure you know who your two primary contacts are in your NCAA portal are. Literally, if you leave here today with one thing, know what that is. Take a look at it, just understand what that looks like. And then kind of, okay, what is my next step? For a more veteran AD who put a lot of us, like your participation in college athletics, you coached in college athletics, whatever you've done, is to embrace like it is a changing landscape. You can have your own personal opinion about if you think it's right, wrong, whatever. But the framework you have to know is to be and have a system for how we'll help our kids manage their opportunities when they come to them. No one wants to be in a position where someone has not been set up for success to take that next step. So that may be listening to our podcast or listening to this little space. That may be signing up for the LTC that we teach at NCAA. That may be watching one of the webinars that the NCAA offers. That may be just finding a small space for how I manage preparation for our student athletes to be collegiate athletes at any level, by the way. This includes junior colleges, includes NAIA, just a little tiny piece. Keep your mind open. Because the more open you are to the changes, the more your kids are going to be successful and find the best academic and athletic fit. Like that is what the goal is always, right? It is not Division I or nothing. It is where can I succeed as an athlete and as a student and set myself up for what I want to do next, right? So
No, great stuff. And so again, ADs, there you have it. You don't have to know everything right now, but you need to continue to educate yourself. And you do that, as Courtney suggested, taking advantage of all the many resources that are out there. And of course, that one of those is Honest Game, adding to your network. Add Courtney Sakalleris to your network. And let's go and do that right now. The website is honestgame.com. But if somebody wants to find out a little bit more, how can they reach you directly?
info at honestgame.com or a little tricky. It's the last name. It's Sakalleris at honestgame.com. I also am on, you can look up, our team. I love our team. I love being part of a great team. So I am the second Courtney. We've got a college Courtney who spent 20 years in Division I athletics and is, sort of everything. The women's brand is enormous. We've got our co-founders who are just versed in their sort of partnerships and how they work in high schools and with the NCAA. And then we have a whole slew of great people who do data for us and have school experience and have college coaching experience. So I love our team. So anyone you find on there will probably be able to answer all your questions, but you're welcome to contact me directly too.
And Courtney's fairly active on LinkedIn as well. So reach out. Courtney, thanks as always for sharing. I love the platform, love what you're doing in our space, and all the best as we continue our journey in 2025.
Jake, thank you so much. I appreciate all you do and sort of just the resources you provide. You're a link to all the things that people need, and you do such a great job. And obviously, your enthusiasm is, felt by everybody. So you're so fun to be with. Thanks.
Hey, well, you are very kind. I enjoy what I do. I know you do too. For listeners, we enjoy you tuning in. And just a reminder that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Education Lady Podcast YouTube channel. We do this segment every single week and just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of education-based athletics. So come back and join us for another Tech Tuesday on the Education Lady Podcast. Hey, before we go, we want to give a shout out to all of our great sponsors. The Ohio University Online Masters, Gipper, you find them at gipper.com, Home Campus, homecampus.com, Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards at sidelineinteractive.com, Huddle, find them at huddle.com. Excuse me, Snap Raise, online fundraising, snapraise.com. Hometown Ticketing, you'll find them at hometownticketing.com. Vital Signs Wall of Fame, vitalsignswalloffame.com, and K-12 Sports Tech. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Education Lady Podcast.